10 years after we started dating and got married, Lucas proposed a divorce to me. He said it was just a fake divorce, done to put his mother's mind at ease. He promised that we would remarry once his mother passed away. He thought I would throw a tantrum and had a cold expression on his face as he spoke. I knew what he said was true. Even though the woman outside had pressured him several times, he never really wanted to divorce me. He loved me. But he couldn't resist the temptation. I loved him too, so it took a lot of courage for me to leave. And this time, I had finally gathered enough courage. Lucas's mother was hospitalized and she told her son that she had advanced gastric cancer. Lying in the hospital bed, she held her son's hand and her last wish was for him to divorce me. Lucas tearfully agreed. We'll go through the divorce formalities tomorrow. I promise we'll remarry. I know you're not willing. But there are priorities. My mom is lying in the hospital. As a daughter-in-law, can you please not make a fuss? Seeing that I didn't say anything, Lucas thought I was giving him a cold shoulder and repeated his words. Okay. I replied. I had just been distracted, thinking about something else. This time, I readily agreed. You? Agreed? I used to have a quick temper. Because his mother used to stir things up between us. I often lost my temper with him. Later, when he had an affair, it made me furious at first, and then gradually my heart grew cold. Many times. When you have truly loved someone and then been betrayed, it's really not easy to move on. It felt like it had stripped a layer of my skin off. Sentimental women always dwell on the past and fantasize about going back to the beginning. It's only after experiencing enough disappointment and betrayal that they finally learn to let go. Unfortunately, I'm one of those overly sentimental women. That's why I've suffered so much in my relationship and marriage. But fortunately, I've finally moved on. In fact, I was also planning to propose a divorce to him today. Seeing that I agreed so easily, he couldn't believe it. Let's not wait until tomorrow. Let's do it now, I said as I got up and walked out. But he hesitated. Why are you agreeing so easily? You don't really want to divorce me. Do you? He asked, looking at me suspiciously. Maybe we should just forget it. I'll talk to our mom again. We're sure to have a child, and that will put her at ease. I had expected that he wouldn't agree easily if I initiated the divorce. There might even be several rounds of bargaining. Or we might even end up in court. But now that the opportunity for a divorce was right in front of me so easily, how could I let it go? I grabbed him and put on a guise of being understanding. What are you thinking? If I really wanted to divorce you, I would have done it when you were having an affair with Isabella. I can't let you be an unfilial son when it's your mother's last wish. He looked at me again, as if trying to figure out if I was telling the truth. Then I turned and put on a stern face. I haven't finished yet. A fake divorce is okay, but all the property must be mine. I'm still afraid you'll deceive me. What if you trick me into getting a divorce and then get back together with Isabella? When I mentioned Isabella, he finally believed me. After all, after that incident, I chose to forgive him, and he was convinced that I couldn't leave him. I've already said that I have nothing to do with her anymore. Why do you keep bringing it up? Okay, I promise you. But we can't let our mom know about this. I nodded in agreement. I'm not stupid. His mother was always up to no good. But I actually had to thank her because this time she even plotted against her own son. When he proposed the divorce earlier, I was distracted because I remembered what the doctor had said to his mother in front of me at the hospital. Patient Luna has a slightly high blood pressure. She needs to be hospitalized for observation for a few days. With a good rest, there won't be any major problems. Luna was my mother-in-law. She had been playing Machhorn in the community park under the sun yesterday and suddenly fainted. I arrived at the hospital before Lucas. Doctors usually don't lie in front of patients and their families, but my mother-in-law was a different story. Moreover, there was Isabella. She was the child of my mother-in-law's longtime good friend and had been childhood friends with Lucas since they were young. Lucas and Isabella's affair was largely thanks to my mother-in-law's matchmaking. When my mother-in-law woke up in the hospital and saw me, she immediately pulled a long face. I'm not dead yet. I don't need you. My godreader will be here soon. She doesn't like seeing you, so you'd better leave now. I knew that Lucas was also on his way to the hospital. She was trying to send me away to create an opportunity for them to be together. My mother-in-law had always disliked me. The reason was that a long time ago, she had hoped that Isabella would be her daughter-in-law. Unfortunately, at that time, Isabella had just come of age. Her mother had mentioned once that Lucas should marry Isabella after he graduated. But Lucas didn't take it seriously and only regarded Isabella as a younger sister at that time. Later, when he fell in love with me in college, his mother naturally didn't agree. Lucas was filial. He had hardly ever gone against his mother's wishes since he was a child. Only for my sake did he get into a long period of cold war with his mother. In the end, the mother still couldn't win against her son and reluctantly agreed to the marriage. Because of this, after we got married, his mother was always nitpicking on me and finding fault with me. But in those years, Lucas also knew that his mother was unreasonable. So he almost always took my side, which made her dislike me even more. Lucas really did love me, even now. But when did this love start to be tainted? Probably in the 5 years since we got married. Lucas and I had never had a child. It wasn't that we couldn't have one, but rather we couldn't keep one. The road to having a child was full of setbacks, and gradually we both became exhausted. The last time, the in vitro fertilization failed. I lost the desire to have a child. And at that time, Lucas also felt guilty towards me, so he took the initiative to tell his mother that we should give up. When his mother found out, she was extremely angry. This was another major reason why she disliked me. But I never expected that because of the issue of childbearing, she could dislike me so much that she would personally plot an affair for her son. And Lucas eventually failed to hold his ground and had a relationship with Isabella, and they even joined forces with his mother to deceive me. After Lucas and I completed the divorce formalities, he kept holding my hand and didn't want to let go. He was like this, as if during our passionate love days, he wanted to be together with me every second. Muma, it will be soon. We'll remarry soon. I promise you that for the rest of my life, I'll hold your hand like this and never let go again. There was a 1-month cooling off period for the divorce. To avoid any changes, I still had to deal with the situation as best I could. But my words were not so polite. They were filled with resentment and disappointment. How can it be soon? Do you wish your mother would leave us sooner? His face darkened for a moment, but then the expression quickly disappeared, and he looked at me with anticipation. Why don't we try in vitro fertilization one more time? This time it will definitely be successful. As long as we have a child, my mother won't make things difficult for us anymore, and she can leave this world in peace. Please, do it for my sake, okay? I sneered inwardly. A man's words are truly lies. He once knelt in front of me and promised that he wouldn't do it again and that he would never hurt me. But I didn't expect that less than a year later. He had forgotten everything. After we got married, I couldn't get pregnant, but it wasn't my problem. It was his. His mother knew this, but she didn't believe it and insisted that it was my fault. At first, our relationship was stable, and we were even an enviable couple. Naturally, I also really wanted to have a child of our own, so I chose to have in vitro fertilization. But the 35-centimeter long Eggert Revel needle was inserted into my body 6 times. 4 times, the fertilized eggs were of poor quality, and the attempts failed before the transplantation. Once, it ended in a chemical pregnancy because the embryo didn't implant after transplantation. He had seen how much suffering I had endured. The double torture, both physically and mentally, made it difficult for me to sleep day and night. But at that time, his eyes and heart were full of pity and self-blame. And a woman who is head over heels in love is truly willing to do anything for a man who knows her well and cares about her. Until the last time, the fertilization was finally successful and the transplantation and implantation were completed. We clung to each other and wept with joy. But that was just the beginning of the pregnancy. In order to keep that child, I lost count of how many needles were injected into my body. It was painful and swollen. I finally managed to get through the most difficult period. But unfortunately the child still couldn't be saved. The child died on the day I discovered the problem between him and Isabella. And I almost lost my life as well. At that time, I had the thought of getting a divorce, and the desire was very strong. But just like most men who have made mistakes, he cried and begged me for forgiveness, knelt in front of me and slapped himself madly, but he just refused to agree to the divorce. Even at that time, my mother-in-law was so angry that she even threatened to commit suicide, but he remained unmoved. Moreover, in front of me, he drew a clear line with Isabella and swore that he would never contact her again. I married far away from my hometown, and my parents were old and not by my side. I didn't want to alarm them. Besides, Lucas confiscated my phone, probably wanting to cut off my connection with my family. I had a miscarriage and was physically weak. I really had nowhere to go. He also took a long leave from the company and stayed by my side every day, allowing me to beat and scold him, just begging me not to leave him. He held me in his arms every night as we fell asleep. In the dead of night he would say sorry to me over and over again in my ear. His voice was deep, sincere, and full of regret. His tears ran down my face and mixed with mine. My heart was torn apart, being pulled between sensibility and rationality. In the end, rationality lost the battle, and I finally chose to forgive. I thought we could go back to the way we used to be, and I tried my best to forget everything. I even often wore a smile on my face. He also seemed to really keep his word and loved me more than ever. We both chose not to touch that past rift. I knew very well that if I wanted to move forward, I couldn't be like a resentful woman, dwelling on the past. No matter how deep the guilt was, it would be worn away one day if I always held on to it. But no matter how much you try to mend a broken rift, it's of no avail. In my dreams at midnight, I still feel the pain in my heart. Moreover, reality slapped me hard again. After all, it was just me deceiving myself. Once a man cheats, he can get addicted to it. With the other woman being both proactive and patient, and with an accomplice who helps them. About half a year later, I found a strand of hair on Lucas's clothes that didn't belong to me. Most women are sensitive, especially those who have been deceived before. This time, I didn't explode. Instead, I pretended that nothing had happened. Perhaps because I had depression, I was even more afraid of losing him and lacked the courage to leave. But this time, rationality had a slight upper hand. He might be a tumor in my heart. It would be satisfying to remove it all at once. But it would also be heartbreaking, and I was afraid I couldn't bear it. I chose a method that was more suitable for me. Besides, I also wanted to take revenge. I secretly made a record in my heart that I would gradually peel him away from my heart. Every time he lied to me, I would make a note of it in my heart, and my disappointment grew. Later, I even looked forward to his deception. I would deliberately let him see that I had discovered his little secret, but I chose to endure it because I had no solid evidence. Then, in front of him, I would pretend that I knew nothing and try my best to cater to him. On the contrary, he relaxed his vigilance, and became more and more convinced that I couldn't leave him. Later, he and Isabella no longer even tried to hide their relationship deliberately and had obvious interactions in public. I would occasionally make some sarcastic remarks. Every time, he would use his mother's pressure as an excuse, saying that there was nothing between them and that they were innocent. But when I saw their ambiguous chat records and short videos, I thought he was really ridiculous. Although he was still very good to me, later, every time Isabella was mentioned, his attitude was not like it was in the first half year when he begged for my forgiveness. Sometimes he would even lose his temper with me, and every time I would remain silent. In his eyes, I had completely submitted to him. But in fact, later I really didn't care anymore. My disguise completely separated my love for him, made him relax his vigilance, and also allowed me to easily obtain all the evidence of his infidelity. I originally planned to confront him directly on the day I left, but his mother gave me a big gift at the last moment. When he felt the most guilty towards me, I didn't think about asking him to transfer all the property to my name, so I missed the opportunity. Even though I now have evidence of his infidelity, if we really go to court, I may not be able to make him leave the marriage with nothing. Instead, because of his mother's scheming, things became much easier for me. And now, I really want to see as soon as possible what expressions his mother and he will have when the truth comes out. At this moment, I turned cold and shook off his hand. I don't want to experience that kind of pain again. I thought he would at least think of how dangerous my miscarriage was and stop talking about this topic. But instead he tried to threaten me with the promise of remarrying. Although our mom's condition is serious, it's really hard to say when she will pass away. Do you really want to be separated from me for so long? You know that our mom has always wanted me to marry Isabella, but you're the only one in my heart. But I can't let my mom leave with a regret regarding her last wish. Since I had already planted the seed in his heart that I couldn't live without him, I didn't mind making it grow a little more. When you tell lies too often, your heart doesn't feel so guilty anymore. No, okay, I promise you. But you also have to promise me that you won't marry Isabella. Don't forget that all your current assets are in my hands. If we really get divorced, you'll have nothing. I also pretended to threaten him. Seeing that I agreed, he smiled and soothed me, saying that he didn't care about those things and only cared about me, but he continued to ask me when I would go to the hospital. And the sooner the better. In fact, now when I think of that 35-centimeter aigrette reval needle, I have an instinctive resistance and fear in my heart, but he can't feel it at all. I used the excuse that my company sent me on a business trip this month, and the earliest I could go would be next month. He was a bit unhappy and even wanted me to resign. He was about to say something more, but just then his phone rang. The screen showed, "Little assistant." He used the excuse of a work call and walked aside. In the past when he received company calls, he never avoided me. It was only half a year ago, after he got back together with Isabella, that he started to like answering calls alone. It was definitely not some little assistant. She was more like a vixen. He hung up the phone and said that there was something urgent at the company and asked me to go home by myself. I guessed that he was definitely going to the hospital. His mother knew that we were going through the divorce formalities today. She must be forcing Lucas to marry Isabella. But they were being a bit too hasty. At least they should wait until we got the divorce certificate. I was a bit worried that his mother would reveal the truth to him at this time, saying that she wasn't really sick. Then Lucas might trouble and refuse to get a divorce again. I suddenly remembered that I had Isabella's WeChat. She had added me with a secondary account before, and this time I could make use of it. I took a photo of the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau and added the caption, "My mother-in-law is causing trouble, so we had to have a fake divorce." I set it to be visible only to Isabella. She saw it very quickly. She directly sent a voice message scolding me for being stupid, saying that it was no fake divorce at all, and that Lucas would marry her right away after divorcing me. She had been waiting for this day for a long time. But she didn't know that there was another reason why I made Lucas believe so firmly that I couldn't leave him, which was my attitude towards Isabella later. No matter how arrogant she was, I never took the initiative to mention divorce, making Isabella always think that Lucas didn't divorce me because I was unwilling to let go. And Lucas is fully aware that I have contact with Isabella. Although he doesn't know the content of our conversations, he doesn't seem to care either. What's more, I would never mention it in front of him because it's all just an act for his sake. I have thoroughly understood Isabella's character. It's fair to say that most of the evidence of their infidelity in my hand was actually provided by her voluntarily. Among all kinds of mistresses, she's rather stupid. The reason why I initially discovered that something was wrong with Lucas was because of her provocation. She sent me a photo of her and Lucas in bed in the middle of the night. At that time, my mother-in-law saw that Lucas and I hadn't had a child yet, and she also knew that Isabella had always liked Lucas. So she kept creating opportunities for Lucas and Isabella to spend time together. His mother really understood the saying, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket," when it came to having a grandson. She thought that with one more person, there would be one more chance at getting pregnant. At first, Lucas refused. But he couldn't resist Isabella's green tea tactics. She always managed to find an opportunity. For a man who doesn't dislike the other person, having an affair might just need a certain opportunity. Many people who say they were just momentarily confused overestimate their own self-control. Once, he and I had a small argument about the child issue. He angrily slammed the door and left. Feeling frustrated, he desperately needed someone to talk to. Isabella learned about the situation from my mother-in-law and took the initiative to find Lucas, claiming it was a coincidence. The two of them drank and chatted in Isabella's apartment. Isabella said all the right things that hit home with Lucas. With the influence of alcohol and the romantic atmosphere, driven by their physical desires, they were attracted to each other. Once it happened, there would be a second time, a third time. On one hand, Lucas felt guilty towards me, while on the other hand, he enjoyed the excitement of the affair. After all, I was his first love, and Isabella was something new and exciting to him. Because of my trust in him, he hid it from me very well, and I never suspected anything. Later, especially after the last in vitro fertilization attempt finally succeeded, he suddenly came to his senses and took the initiative to want to cut off his relationship with Isabella. Isabella naturally refused, but she didn't explicitly reject or threaten him either. Instead, she tricked Lucas into having what she said was their last time together. Taking that opportunity, she sent me a message. Naturally, I didn't believe it at that time. She lured me with her words to catch them in the act. I was 6 months pregnant in a trance, searching for the room number she gave me in the hotel. Standing at the door, I didn't move for a long time. Finally, I mustered up the courage and banged on the door frantically. When I saw Lucas, who was only wearing a bath towel and no other clothes, open the door, my ears were ringing. I felt a sharp pain in my lower body, and blood spread from my calves to my ankles. I was rushed into the operating room, and my breathing grew weaker. The 6-month-old fetus was already formed, but due to premature birth and congenital deficiencies, it didn't even have a chance to open its eyes after being delivered and stopped breathing. In a daze, looking at that tiny little body, I really wanted to go with him. When I survived, I was filled with hatred. So later on, the more she wanted to be with Lucas, the more I didn't want her to get what she wanted. She thought that by constantly sending me things about her and Lucas, she could stimulate me, make me feel heartbroken, and make me get a divorce sooner. But I deliberately did the opposite. Whenever I had a chance, I returned all that pain to her. She forced Lucas to divorce me more than once, and Lucas wasn't completely unwavering either. But every time I would make him recall our wonderful past. I would deliberately show him the bracelet he once gave me in front of him. That was the first gift he bought for me not long after he started working. It wasn't expensive, but what mattered was the thought behind it. At that time, he solemnly promised me that he would give me a better life in the future. I would also let him catch me secretly crying while holding baby items in the middle of the night, repeatedly arousing the guilt in his heart. After he made that mistake, I never wore it again. So when he saw me wearing it again, the emotions in his heart were obvious. They say that the feelings from first love can be very powerful. What's more, we truly loved each other. We went all the way from campus to getting married, with countless memories along the way. Lucas really couldn't bear to part with me. Because of his repeated rejections, Isabella caused a scene and almost lost her life. It was Lucas who rushed over to save her. After she woke up, she triumphantly sent me a photo of Lucas accompanying her in the hospital. But she didn't know that when she first sent messages to Lucas, she was just making verbal threats. Later, she even sent a video of herself holding a knife against her wrist, but she didn't even make a small cut. However, given Lucas's character, if he saw it, he would indeed rush over immediately. But while he was taking a shower, I replied to her message, provoking her with my words and telling her to make her threats more real. She didn't know it was me. I had just had an argument a couple of days before, and she thought Lucas was trying to break up with her again. After that she sent a lot more messages, but I didn't reply. I just deleted her chat window directly. After Lucas finished taking a shower, I sent him to the kitchen, saying that I wanted to eat the sweet and sour spare ribs he made, so that he didn't have access to his phone for a long time. During this period, every message Isabella sent, I deleted. Finally, she couldn't sit still anymore and made several cuts on her wrist, really going all out. In the video, blood was spurting everywhere. I was quite satisfied and set the messages as unread. Then I called Lucas and told him that he had a message on his phone. Just as Lucas put the spare ribs on the table and picked up his phone to check, his face turned pale instantly. He said there was something urgent and rushed out of the house. Looking at his departing back, I didn't feel any sadness in my heart. As for Isabella, whether she lives or dies depends on her fate. In any case, it's not my responsibility. I don't know if she mentioned the WeChat incident to Lucas. Anyway, when Lucas came back he didn't say anything to question me. I guess he probably knows. With two women fighting over him like this, he was enjoying it. But he misjudged me. Since I don't love him anymore, there's no such thing as jealousy. I also don't want to keep being entangled with them like this. But I understand that if I want to leave, I need to make myself strong first. Originally, because of the in vitro fertilization attempts to have a child, I lost my job, and Lucas became my only support, including financially. After we lost the child, when I said I wanted to go out and work, he knew I had depression and didn't stop me. I found the most challenging sales position. Firstly, if I did well, I could earn a lot of money. Secondly, if I was busy, I wouldn't have time to think about unhappy things. Over the past year, I worked hard and finally got an opportunity for myself. I was transferred to the headquarters in Beijing as the regional sales director, with an annual salary of 1 million yuan, and I will take up the position at the end of the year. The timing is just right. So it's time to say goodbye to them once and for all. And now, for the sake of my goal, I need to make Isabella come to her senses a bit. I want her to understand that Lucas doesn't want to be with her, not because I'm unwilling to let go. I sent her 2 voice recordings. One was of Lucas taking the initiative to talk to me about the fake divorce, and the other was of him just now saying that he wanted to have another child with me. I replied to her in her usual tone. He truly loves me. We will have another child soon. Then tell me, does that old woman care more about you or the grandson in my belly? I really hit the nail on the head. Last time, besides Lucas wanting to break up with her, Luna also stopped helping her because of the child in my belly at that time and even advised her to let go first. It was only after I lost the child and didn't want to try again that Luna thought of her again. And Isabella has a deep obsession with Lucas. Even though she knows Luna's intentions, she's still willing to do whatever it takes. Even when Luna later really realized that it was her son's problem and deliberately mentioned it in front of Isabella. Isabella actually volunteered to have in vitro fertilization, saying that she was in good health and 100 times better than me, which made Luna very happy. But just when they seemed to be on the same page, Lucas disagreed. Because Lucas loves me, even though the love he gives me is full of thorns. But a man's love and sexual desire can be separated. I'm quite sure that Lucas doesn't love Isabella. It's just his physical desire and a bit of guilt in his heart that are driving him. Because in the short video, he was like a beast. But Isabella doesn't think so. A woman who is deeply in love, as long as a man is a little nice to her, she will think it's love. She thought Lucas was in a dilemma at that time. And precisely because of this, the two of them came up with this strategy this time, making Lucas divorce me first. But they didn't know that they were actually being too clever for their own good, especially my mother-in-law. Luna, it was actually she who first proposed this idea. Isabella once shouted at me, saying that she had liked Lucas since she was a child and had loved him for almost 20 years. Now that there was a way, she naturally wouldn't refuse. Having finally got the opportunity, she would surely be very cautious. After hearing my words, she was furious but spoke with certainty. You bitch. I won't let you get what you want. Lucas can only be mine. He will definitely divorce you. Sure enough, she didn't let me down. A little later, Lucas called me. My mom won't believe it until she sees our divorce certificate. During this period, she wants me to take care of her in the hospital. Since you're going on a business trip, let's talk about having a child when you come back. This time, I promise I won't let you down again. I organized my words and replied to him with a message, revealing my worry and unease between the lines. I also asked him to report his itinerary to me at all times during my business trip. He sent a voice message, soothing me in a doting tone. I was satisfied with his attitude towards me. I casually sent a cute emoji and then threw my phone aside, continuing to pack my suitcase for the business trip tomorrow. Originally, this business trip was supposed to be for a week, but I deliberately extended it to half a month. During this period, Lucas reported to me on time every day, and the most frequent question he asked was when I would be back. He was eager to go to the hospital with me. Although his mother didn't explicitly say that she wasn't sick, she had mentioned several times that Lucas should marry Isabella. I kept flirting with him during this period. He had something on his mind, and his attitude towards his mother was always evasive. He neither explicitly agreed nor refused. Isabella was rather quiet during this period. I guess she also didn't want to make me doubt the fact of the fake divorce. On the day Lucas went to the hospital, his mother should have learned from Isabella what I had said to her. So after Lucas told his mother that the divorce formalities had been completed, his mother directly asked if it was a fake divorce, and then said that she must see the divorce certificate to believe it. And Daphne told me what happened in the hospital. She happened to be doing a want round and pretended to stay for a while and heard the general idea. She is a doctor in that hospital and was once one of my clients, but we have become quite good friends. She also had an unhappy marriage once. During that period, I accompanied her to get through it. And she is also very clear about my situation. Come to think of it, it was me who reminded Luna indirectly that she could pretend to be sick and force the issue. I asked Daphne to pretend to make a phone call and say in front of Luna that there was a patient who had cancer but was forcing his own son to marry someone he didn't love. The son was filial and finally agreed. Sure enough, Luna took the bait. And perhaps God also thought that I should completely stay away from the scumbag and seemed to be deliberately favoring me. I originally thought that I would still have to deal with Lucas for another half a month when I got back. But his company asked him to go on a business trip at this time, and he was away for 10 days. I didn't idle around during this period either. The house was originally in both of our names. But before the divorce, I asked to transfer the ownership first, and it was put under my name alone. I basically won't come back here in the future, so I simply listed it with a real estate agency and sold the house. Just one day before Lucas came back, the house was sold. I negotiated with the buyer to hand over the house at the end of the month, and the buyer agreed. After Lucas came back, he went to the hospital first. His mother had been staying in the hospital to pretend to be sick and even asked the doctor to help her hide it. She even received intravenous drips on time every day. When Lucas came back, I noticed that he didn't look very well. He told me that his mother had looked haggard recently. And he was a bit worried. I wasn't going to comfort him. After all, his mother was also partly responsible for me losing the child. If it weren't for her, Lucas might not have made a mistake, at least not taken the initiative to make a mistake. I didn't say anything. And it took him a long time to speak. There are only 5 days left until the 1-month cooling off period is over. How about we get the certificate first to put my mom at ease? It's just a certificate. It won't affect our relationship. There are many people who get divorced but still live together. Then I'll accompany you to the hospital. Once we have a child, we'll remarry. He looked at me with anticipation in his eyes. I really wanted to roll my eyes and tell him that he was having a pipe dream. But in the end, I still nodded. There were only 5 days left, and I could endure it. On the day we got the divorce certificate, I felt much more relaxed. Lucas looked at the divorce certificate and let out a sigh. Just as he was about to say something to me, his phone rang. It was Isabella calling again. Before he could say that he was going to answer the call aside, I spoke up. I already know that the person marked as little assistant is Isabella. He didn't expect me to expose him suddenly. He looked flustered and didn't know what to say for a moment. The phone was still ringing and he hung up guiltily. But as soon as he hung up, the phone rang again. He was about to hang up, and I reminded him. Isabella should be in the hospital. Right? Maybe there's something going on at the hospital. You should answer it. He seemed to have found an excuse and quickly explained. Yes, you know my mom's attitude towards Isabella. She has been taking care of my mom these days while I was away. There's really nothing else going on between us. After answering the phone, Isabella's voice came from the other side. Lucas, come to the hospital quickly. Auntie said she's not feeling well and wants to see you. This time, I went to the hospital with Lucas. Luna didn't like me, and he originally didn't want me to go. But there are some things that are more interesting to tell her in person. Sure enough, Luna and Isabella didn't look happy when they saw me. Isabella blocked my way and said, You've already divorced Lucas. What are you doing here? I ignored her and looked at Luna lying in the hospital bed. Is it interesting to pretend to be sick and trick your son into divorcing me? Luna wasn't surprised how I knew, but she thought I was here to blame her. Having just seen the divorce certificate Lucas gave her, she didn't pretend anymore at this moment. What's the use of saying these things now? The divorce is already done. My son has nothing to do with you now. Get out of my sight immediately. What do you mean, Mom, you're not sick? Son, Mom had no choice. It's all for your own good. You were caught between two people and in a dilemma. Mom had to make the decision for you. Compared with this woman, Isabella loves you more. Besides, Isabella has never been pregnant. And she's in good health. She can give you a child. Lucas was deceived and his anger flared up. He started to blame her. Mom, you've gone too far. When will you learn to leave my affairs alone? If it weren't for you, how could I have let Emma down? Since you're not sick, I'll go and remarry Emma right now. Stay out of our business in the future. After saying that, he was about to pull me away. Luna quickly got out of bed and stepped forward to stop Lucas. And I directly avoided the hand that Lucas was reaching out to pull me. Actually, your mom isn't really lying to you. Hearing me say this, the 3 people in the room all stared at me in a daze. I looked at Luna's pale face and then said to Lucas, Your mom really has cancer, but she doesn't know it herself. What are you talking nonsense about? You're the one with cancer. I'm in good health. After saying this, she swayed a bit. In fact, when we first entered the room, she already looked sickly, with cold sweat on her forehead. Isabella said she wasn't feeling well on the phone, and it should be true. At this time, I didn't want to beat around the bush anymore. I directly told her the truth. It's just that I've modified it. I originally planned to have a complete falling out with them. But just now, Isabella sent me a message, which suddenly changed my mind. If they knew they had been tricked, they would inevitably keep pestering me. It's better to let them reap what they sow, and I can avoid getting involved in any trouble. That day, the nurse took the wrong medical record. Later, when I went out with the doctor, I found that the medical record of the patient with high blood pressure didn't match her age. That's when I realized that there were 2 patients named Luna on that day. The doctor told me about your condition, and it's indeed gastric cancer. Our relationship as mother-in-law and daughter-in-law has never been good. Naturally, I wouldn't talk too much about this matter. Besides, a motor first need to apply for a chore. You also said that Lucas was on his way here. When I got home at night, Lucas also told me that you had gastric cancer, so I thought you already knew about it yourself. But just now, Isabella sent me a message saying that you were pretending to be sick. It was all to trick Lucas into divorcing me, so you actually didn't know about it. I said this in a surprised tone, pretending to be shocked. In fact, I was extremely delighted inside. After hearing what I said, she looked at me with an expression of disbelief on her face. She was flustered and helpless, saying that it was impossible. Just then, Daphne happened to come over. Luna, as if she had grabbed a life-saving straw, quickly asked. Doctor, you said I just had high blood pressure. Do I have gastric cancer, or did you make up lies to deceive my son? Daphne ignored the second part of what she said. What high blood pressure? Didn't I tell your son later that it's gastric cancer? Your condition is very serious. Why are you still getting out of bed? You're in the advanced stage of gastric cancer. You should pay attention to rest and not worry too much. After getting a positive answer, Luna fainted all of a sudden, and she was rushed into the emergency room. Lucas didn't seem to have recovered from this incident yet. He squatted on the hospital corridor, looking lost. Isabella tried to comfort him, but he shook off her hand. Luna won't live for long. In the future, Lucas and Isabella will have nothing to do with me. I left the hospital. I caught the afternoon flight, left this place, and went to Beijing. While sitting on the plane, I thought of the day Luna fainted. It was indeed because a nurse made a mistake and took the wrong medical record. And the doctor who received the patient happened to be Daphne. What I told Luna and the others earlier was all true. It's just that later I asked Daphne not to tell her the truth immediately, but to pretend to make a phone call in front of her first. Luna indeed resorted to the trick of pretending to be sick. Later, Luna asked Daphne to help her lie again. At that time, Daphne prevaricated and didn't agree. But later, when dealing with Luna, she treated her as a gastric cancer patient, including prescribing medicine for her. So there's no way to hold her accountable for it. Daphne once asked me why I was going through so much trouble. I could just tell Luna the truth. And she would still force her son to get a divorce, wouldn't she? But compared with her own life, the marital status of her son is probably less important. Unless she's on the verge of death. But I don't have that much time to waste with them. Now it's just perfect. I've easily obtained all the property and kept myself out of any trouble. And I already have plans for the evidence in my hand, and I won't waste it. Later, in order to have more contact with Lucas, Isabella went to work in their company. Both of them thought I didn't know about it. But their company has a clear rule that office romances are not allowed. They usually pretended to be in a superior-subordinate relationship. And no one ever suspected them. That's also the reason why Lucas marked her as little assistant in his phone. But Lucas is a middle and senior manager in the company. He's aggressive in his work and has offended a lot of people. Especially, he has always been in conflict with another company. So I sold the evidence of their affair to his rival company. And I communicated with them about the timing. They will release it today. This is a scandal. Everyone in the company knows that Lucas is married. This is not just a personal issue for him. Since it's exposed by his rival, it will directly affect the company's image. The outcome for them is obvious. Lucas contacted me later. But he didn't know that I was the one behind all this, making him lose everything. Instead, his voice was trembling and helpless when he talked to me. He has been fired by the company, and the affair between him and Isabella has caused a huge stir. When he got home, he found that the house had been sold by me. But he thought that I left without a word because I found out that he and Isabella had betrayed me again. And his mother had an operation that day. Although she was rescued, she was already at the end of her life. After learning all these things, she didn't survive for a few days and passed away. I'm sorry. Can you come back? No. I hung up the phone and then deleted all his contact information. He will never know the truth in his life. Even if I leave, I want him to feel that he's the one who's sorry for me, Let him live his whole life in regret and guilt. Before getting married, my husband and I agreed that he would buy a house with a loan and I would buy a car with full payment. 3 years after getting married, we had a small amount of savings. I trusted my husband and transferred the money for the car to him. But then I saw the salesperson post a photo of picking up a car on WeChat Moments. Congratulations to Mr. Yang and Mrs. Yang on getting their beloved car. Honey, I bought the Mercedes-Benz. I'll come pick you up later. Henry's uncontrollable excitement and joy made me feel sick at this moment. In the past, as long as Henry was happy, I was willing to do anything. I replied coldly, okay. In the afternoon, he was eager to pick up the car, saying that the promotion would end today. Seeing how happy he was, I didn't have the heart to dampen his enthusiasm, so I said I could go for the prenatal checkup alone. I saw a look of shock on his face for a moment. At that moment, I knew he had forgotten that today was the day to accompany me for the prenatal checkup. But he still managed to coax me. Honey, I'll come pick you up right after I get the car. In the afternoon, I queued up and got the number alone. It was also the peak time for the hospital's flow of people. I saw strange looks from those around me. I knew that few pregnant women would come alone to queue, draw blood, and have a prenatal checkup. Even the doctor said, ask your husband to come next time. What's the point of you coming for the checkup alone? Just as I was waiting in line for the X-ray, I scrolled through the salesperson's WeChat Moments. Congratulations to Mr. Yang and Mrs. Yang on getting their beloved car. In the photo, my husband and Juliet were standing on either side. Juliet was holding flowers, and my husband was smiling with his hand on the car. They looked like a loving newly married couple. I gave a bitter smile. I accepted all the subsequent examinations expressionlessly. At 4 o'clock, I'll be there soon. Honey. At 4:30, no bunny, I'm not familiar with driving this new car. I'm going to buy insurance. At 5 o'clock, honey, I'm almost there. I'll take a spin on the highway. By 6 o'clock, I still hadn't waited for him. Just as I was about to take a taxi home, an electric bike came speeding and knocked me down. The last thing I saw was the old man in the grocery store running towards me and anxiously carrying me into the hospital. When I woke up, the doctor handed me a medical report, which showed that I had had a miscarriage. I called my mom. Mom, I want to go home. What's wrong, my dear daughter? Where are you? Mom will drive to pick you up right away. While waiting for my mom, I received a message from Henry. Honey, if you're hungry, go to a restaurant outside and have a meal. I'll still need a while. Is 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening okay? I'll definitely come pick you up before then. I lowered my eyes and replied. My mom came very quickly. Unlike Henry, who always made me wait and never kept his promise in the end. When I got home, I went to bed exhausted. I slept until the next morning. When I picked up my phone, I saw that Henry had sent me more than a dozen messages and called me dozens of times. Honey, I'm already at the hospital. Why can't I see you? Where are you? Are you still in the hospital? Why don't you reply to my messages? Do you know how worried I am about you? Don't answer the phone either. Where on earth have you gone? Reply to me when you see this. I looked at the time shown above the messages. It was 9:30 last night, when Henry said he had arrived at the hospital. But when I checked the home surveillance, I found that Henry was still at home smoking and watching TV at 9:30. Just as I was about to reply to Henry, I received a call from him. The next second, I heard Henry's questioning. I sent you so many messages and called you so many times, but you didn't reply. I was just a little late to pick you up. Is it necessary for you to throw such a tantrum? Are we still going to live together or not? I was silent, and Henry asked me gruffly again. Where are you now? I'll come pick you up home. I said lightly, at my parents' home. Henry cursed in a low voice and then said he would come right away. During the waiting period, my mom cooked millet congee for me. Eat it while it's hot, my dear daughter. Look how thin you've become. Why did you suddenly come home? did you quarrel with Henry? I sipped the cognac and didn't dare to tell my mom what had happened. I just shook my head. At that time, my family didn't approve of me marrying Henry. My dad even threatened that if I dared to marry him, he would disown me. Later, I threatened my parents with my life, and they reluctantly gave in. Now that things had turned out like this with Henry, I felt ashamed in front of my parents. Until the pot of millet cognac cooled down, Henry didn't come. At dinner time, Henry finally arrived. I went to open the door and said to Henry standing at the door, "Let's get a divorce." I didn't want to keep waiting for Henry anymore. Waiting for him to grow up and take responsibility, waiting for him to love me wholeheartedly. I had wasted too much of my youth on him, and didn't want to wait any longer. When Henry heard this, his face changed, and he started cursing at me. "Isabella, just because you're pregnant, you think you're something special, right? You keep showing me a cold face again and again? I'm telling you, after you give birth to the child, you won't be needed for anything. You can do whatever you want then. You keep talking about divorce all the time. You women are so annoying." My mom came to stop the argument, and Henry slammed the door and left. Listening to the sound of the car starting, I turned around and threw myself into my mom's arms. "Mom, how could Henry treat me like this?" Henry and I had been through thick and thin together. It was not easy for us to have our own small family. We had agreed that he would buy a house with a loan and I would buy a car. I thought that since we were just starting out and it was a bit difficult, we could first buy a car for commuting. When we had more money, we could resell it and buy a better one. But Henry said, "A car worth 120,000 yuan is also called a car? It's better to walk. Honey, don't make me lose face when I drive out." He said he wanted a Mercedes-Benz, a relatively new model. So I worked desperately, stayed up late and worked overtime to the point that I didn't have time to eat. In the end, I got a stomach problem but still didn't want to spend money on treatment. Finally, I saved up 500,000 yuan for him and transferred it to him with joy, asking him to buy a car. But he questioned me, "Honey, how did you, a woman, earn so much money? You wouldn't have done something to betray me behind my back, would you?" I quickly explained that I didn't. Although part of the money was from selling my previous jewelry and borrowing from old friends, I was still a bit sad to hear that his first reaction was like this. Then, after the test tube was successful and I got pregnant, Henry dispelled his doubts about me. After that, Henry took me to see cars. In the car dealership, Henry met his former classmate Juliet. Juliet was extremely beautiful. She looked Henry up and down and then smiled sweetly. "It's Henry. You can come here to buy a car. It seems you've been doing well these years." Henry kept saying it was just so. "It's still you, Juliet, who are outstanding. You're still so beautiful after all these years." That day, Henry and Juliet talked for a long time. I could only add the salesperson's WeChat on the side and chat about the performance of several car models. The most excessive thing was that when Juliet asked who I was, Henry stammered. Finally, he said I was his colleague. I directly made it clear, "I'm Henry's wife." Henry's face looked extremely ugly, and Juliet also smiled awkwardly. "Is it sister you, right?" I didn't mean anything. I was just asking casually. After we got home that day, Henry and I had a fierce argument. I questioned him why he had lied about my identity. "We are a legitimate married couple who have received a marriage certificate. Is it that hard for you to say it?" Only then did Henry stutter out that Juliet was his first love in his school days. He just couldn't forget that past. Then he tightly held my hand. "However, honey, don't worry. You're carrying our child. How could I possibly betray you? I'll definitely treat you well in the future and won't have too much contact with Juliet." Thinking that I was already pregnant, I didn't want to entangle with Henry anymore. So I let it go. But now it seems that Henry didn't keep his promise at all. Maybe he and Juliet have even kissed behind my back. "Isabella, don't cry. The women in our Isabella family can shed blood and sweat, but they can't shed tears. Just treat Henry the way he treats you. There are so many men in the world. Do you have to be with Henry? My mom comforted me a few words and then said to me in a tone of exasperation. I stopped crying, calmed down and thought carefully. Mom was right. Henry was the one who made mistakes first and didn't know how to cherish me. Since that was the case, there was no need for me to be sad for a scumbag. What's more, I still had my parents as my backup. Got it. Mom'll go prepare for the divorce later. When I got home, I found Henry sitting on the sofa, looking at me obsequiously. As soon as I entered the door, Henry helped me to the sofa and then went to pour me a cup of hot water. Honey. My dear honey, I have something to discuss with you. Henry said softly while massaging my shoulders and back. I just felt like the sun was rising from the west. What is it? Henry smiled and explained, actually. It's not a big deal. It's just that. Juliet said it's very troublesome for her every time she travels. She's always wanted a better car for a self-driving tour. I thought our Mercedes-Benz is quite good, and the trunk is big too. Juliet rarely wants anything. What do you think of me transferring the ownership of the Mercedes-Benz to Juliet? You won't be angry, will you? Honey? After all, the car was bought for me, and it's up to me to decide how to deal with it. Right? I stood up with a sneer and shouted, I bought the Mercedes-Benz for you with all my heart, but in the end, I can't even sit in the passenger seat? If Juliet wants it, you'll give it to her? If Juliet asks you to die, will you go? You said you were discussing with me, but it seems to me that you're just informing me. Don't think I don't know. You were with Juliet the whole time when I went for the prenatal checkup. You two must have had a great time driving around together. That day, I was all alone, while my husband was sitting in the car I bought with another woman, being lovey-dovey. I clenched my hands tightly, and then heard Henry stubbornly retort. We just happened to meet. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd think too much. Look. Now you're overthinking. You're putting labels on me without any evidence. I was also worried about Juliet, a girl, being unsafe at night that day. So I sent her home first. There are so many doctors, nurses, and at worst, security guards in the hospital. Do you think I'm not worried about your safety? Isabella, don't be so sensitive. Anyway, the car is only registered in my name. I'm going to give it to Juliet. Don't try to control me. I let go of my hands, feeling completely drained, and tried to hold back my tears. Yes, do whatever you want. It has nothing to do with me if you give the car to Juliet or any other women. I came back this time to tell you that I want to divorce you. Henry kicked the table hard and shouted at me angrily. What divorce? Isabella, I'm warning you to stop making trouble. As if thinking of something, Henry sneered again. You're carrying my child now. After the divorce. Who will you be with? Who else will want you? I advise you to give up that idea as soon as possible. I'm going out now to transfer the ownership to Juliet. You stay at home and behave yourself. Don't call me and bother me. Looking at Henry's departing back, a wave of bitterness welled up in my heart. He still couldn't even say sorry to me. I went back to the room to pack my luggage. When Henry came back, I had already called the moving company and was going to move all my things away. Henry was furious. He pushed the movers aside and threw my things on the ground. Isabella, who allowed you to leave? Please stop being unreasonable. Okay? Do you want the neighbors to come and watch our joke like this? I couldn't bear it anymore and stepped forward to pound on Henry. It's you who did something wrong, not me. Henry. Where do you get the nerve? You scumbag, get away from me. Don't stop me from going home. Henry and I started fighting. The movers beside us came to stop the fight. There was a lot of pushing and shoving, and the scene was chaotic for a while. Finally, Henry and I were separated. During the struggle, my medical report fell out. I was about to bend down to pick it up when Henry was quick-witted and grabbed it first. Henry saw the content on the medical report and looked at me in disbelief. Isabella, you had a miscarriage? I stepped forward to snatch the medical report back, then turned around and squatted on the ground to pick up my things. Yes, there's no longer our child in my belly. So we have no relationship now. You can't stop me from getting a divorce. Whatever I do has nothing to do with you. Henry walked forward in a rage and grabbed my wrist tightly. How does it have nothing to do with me? Isabella, how did the child disappear? I looked at Henry with a cold smile, broke free from his hand, and said word by word. You didn't come to pick me up that day. I was hit and fainted in the hospital. When I woke up, the doctor told me the child was gone. How about it, are you satisfied? Henry took 2 steps back, frowning in confusion. Just because of this? Isabella, you're really a crazy woman. Henry kept cursing beside me, saying that I was crazy and that I was being unreasonable, and that the child was really unlucky to have me. I shrugged indifferently. Say whatever you want. Anyway, you didn't avoid smoking in front of me when I was pregnant. You probably didn't want this child long ago. As I said this, I picked up the things on the ground, handed them back to the movers, and turned to say goodbye to Henry. Never see you again. Before getting in the car, I turned around and saw Henry angrily trampling the flowers and plants in front of the door. After getting in the car, I called my parents. Mom and Dad, I'm already preparing for the divorce. Let's go back to our own home. Back to our own home. Not the rented home we used to hide from Henry. Along the way, I kept thinking about the past. I didn't know why I was so blind to fall in love with Henry back then. 2 years ago, I met Henry. I thought Henry was a very romantic person. Although he was short of material things, he was not poor spiritually. He often wrote some inspiring quotes and would also compose poems and draw pictures for me. At that time, I had never seen someone as special as Henry. I was born into a wealthy family. My parents had always wanted me to learn business, but I didn't like it at all. I just thought they were all people driven by greed. Moreover, everyone in the business field was a hypocrite, saying one thing to your face and doing another behind your back. There were countless open and covert struggles. Only Henry was different. He was a very simple person. Henry and I quickly fell in love. But my parents firmly opposed this relationship and threatened to kick me out of the house if I was stubborn. Finally, I threatened them with my life, and my parents took a step back and reluctantly agreed to let me be with Henry. However, if you really want to be together, you must pass our 3-year test. If you have a child and your family is harmonious and happy after 3 years, your mom and I will agree to this marriage and bring you back home to live a good life together. In this way, I reached an agreement with my parents to hide my family background. During this period, they wouldn't provide me with any financial support. My parents rented a shabby house and rarely showed up at the company. We played the roles of a poor family together. Henry and I lived like this for 2 years, and he never noticed anything amiss. He thought we were well matched and strived together. But everything changed since Henry and Juliet reunited. Now I realize that Henry doesn't love me at all. I was just the best girl he could find at that time, and he married me just to make do. As soon as Juliet came along, he wanted to kick me aside to get a better girl. Even before Juliet agreed to be with him, he was reluctant to divorce me and wanted to keep me as a backup. Dad. Mom. I cried and threw myself into my parents' arms, returning to the home I hadn't been to for 2 years. Seeing me crying like this, my parents didn't scold me. Instead, they comforted me to look on the bright side and said that at least I stopped the loss in time. They had long known that Henry and I wouldn't last, so they set up the 3-year test. They took back all the property they had given me before and cleared my premarital property, aiming to prevent Henry from taking advantage. My parents and I returned to our old lives. A few days later, the former landlord called me, saying that Juliet came to the house to look for me. After thinking for a while, I put on a plain dress and went to the shabby rented house to meet Juliet. Isabella, I advise you to let go as soon as possible. Henry said you had a miscarriage, so there's no point in staying with Henry. Let's just let each other go. Only I can give Henry a child and a happy family. It's quite meaningless for you to hang on like this. Juliet put her hands on her hips and provocatively said to me with a proud look on her face. She looked exactly like someone who was spoiled and arrogant. I didn't know what Henry had told her usually, which made her misunderstand like this. Juliet, you're also quite boring. You like a scumbag so much. If he can flirt with you during his marriage, he'll also flirt with other women if he marries you in the future. Juliet was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. She jumped up in a hurry. Shut up. My business has nothing to do with you. The one who isn't loved is the mistress. Don't assume everyone is like you. Okay? Henry is head over heels for me, and he was just playing with you. I sneered. Oh. Well, but Henry probably didn't tell you that it was him who didn't want a divorce, and he was the one who was pestering. Look at you. He hasn't even been willing to divorce me yet, and you're already eager to give him a child and a home, throwing yourself at him. TSKDSKDSK. I wonder if the child can get a Huku household registration when it's born. Juliet's face turned bright red with anger. She stammered you for a long time. I had enough of seeing Juliet's embarrassed look and said leisurely, I'm also too lazy to get involved with you guys. Look, you persuade Henry to divorce me. And then you can be together. Persuading me is useless. As long as Henry agrees to divorce, I'll sign the divorce agreement without hesitation. Juliet left, half believing, and before leaving, she reminded me. That's what you said. Don't go back on your word. Juliet left excitedly, wagging her tail like a puppy that had gotten some meat. I found it funny. I wonder what Juliet's reaction would be if she knew that Henry, whom she was pining after wholeheartedly, was not only a poor guy but also a man with reproductive problems. You know, when Henry and I first got together, Henry wanted to buy a house with a loan, so he worked desperately in a chemical factory with a relatively high salary. But during the physical examination a year later, I found out that he had as the nosus permae. This was caused by inhaling harmful dust in the factory, and the damage was irreversible. There was no treatment for this kind of disease, and it could only recover on its own. I felt extremely distressed and was afraid of hurting Henry's self-esteem, so I kept it from him. I also told my parents about it. Although they didn't want to provide me with material help. They didn't want Henry to continue doing a job that was harmful to his health, and they didn't want to see me end up with a sickly person. So my parents took the initiative to ask their business friends to help Henry. Then I encouraged Henry to leave the chemical factory, and arranged for him to work in my parents' friend's company. Of course, all of this was kept from Henry. Henry was complacent, thinking that he was extremely capable. Gradually, Henry finally saved enough for the down payment and bought our small home with a loan. After that, I took the initiative to take the blame on myself, lying that I had fertility problems and could only get pregnant through in vitro fertilization. But I didn't expect that just when I was about to get happiness, Henry changed completely. He started to order me around and was no longer as gentle and considerate as before. Juliet was very efficient. Persuaded by her, Henry agreed to divorce me. And thinking that I didn't have much money, he kindly returned the Mercedes-Benz I bought to me. We both left the marriage with our own property and wouldn't interfere with each other's property. I completely got rid of Henry and sincerely hoped that he and Juliet could live a good life and not bother me anymore. But not long after, I received a call from my ex-mother-in-law. Isabella, why did you quarrel with Henry? Your divorce is too hasty. If you've been wronged, you can tell Mom. Mom will definitely stand up for you and won't let Henry bully you. My ex-mother-in-law seemed to be thinking about me, but I knew clearly that she was just trying to get on my good side. She couldn't have been unaware of such a big thing as divorce. Moreover, when Henry and I first got married, she had always disliked me. She either said that I didn't look like I could bring good luck to my husband or that I couldn't even wash dishes clean. She was always nitpicking. What she often said was, my son is so outstanding. You've been extremely lucky to marry into our family. Don't be ungrateful. I guessed she was probably overjoyed when she knew Henry had hooked up with Juliet. After all, Juliet was dressed up brightly and looked like a rich young lady at first glance. I said coldly, since I'd divorced Henry, you're no longer my mother-in-law. Don't call yourself mom. Just say what you want. Cut the crap. Surprisingly, my ex-mother-in-law wasn't angry. She forced a smile and complained. Oh, you don't know? That slut Juliet is like a hen that can't lay eggs. It's better to raise a pig than her. She looks like a woman of loose morals. She used to hook up with many bosses and had several abortions. Now her fertility is extremely poor. Henry and her have done in vitro fertilization many times, but she still can't get pregnant. Isabella, in the end, Mom still likes you the most. You're obedient, sensible, and cute. There's no need for us to be so hostile. Since there's still some affection left, get back together with Henry as soon as possible. Afraid that I had concerns, my mother-in-law even brought up Juliet on her own initiative. As long as you agree, I'll kick Juliet out right away. There will always be a place for you in this family. When are you available? How about I take you and Henry out for a meal? I listen with a cold smile. No need. A good horse doesn't eat the grass it has already passed by. I'm not that cheap to look for trouble. After saying that, I hung up the phone and blocked my ex-mother-in-law's number. The next second, I received a call from Henry. Isabella. I know I was wrong to you before. Can you give me another chance? I really regret it and know I was wrong. If you come back now, I promise I'll treat you well in the future. Isabella, come back. I don't blame you for losing the child anymore. We'll have other children in the future. Don't let this affect our relationship. After all he wants is a woman to give him a child. You want a child so much. Why don't you go and be someone else's grandson outside and have your fill of being a child? Don't bother me anymore. I blocked Henry and his whole family. And finally, I had some peace. After going through all this, I completely changed my mindset. Under the arrangement of my parents, I started to take over the company's affairs. Through my parents' introduction, I met Lucas, a new business tycoon. He's good-looking, talented, and has good morals. With the matchmaking of our parents, Lucas and I developed a mutual liking for each other and had good tacit understanding in our work. Lucas often came to my company to share his experience with me and teach me how to manage my subordinates. Lucas and I got along very well. But on the day of recruitment, I saw Henry's resume. I called my dad's friend to ask and found out that Henry was perfunctory at work because he was unhappy, causing the company to lose a big order. I also learned that since I had divorced Henry, there was no need to consider my dad's feelings. So his friend decisively fired Henry. Lucas held Henry's resume, flipping it back and forth with a look of disdain on his face. Is this your shitty ex-husband? Lucas looked at me with a puzzled expression and commented in a rather venomous way. He's ugly, has a low education, bad morals, and low ability. Isabella, how on earth did you fall for him before? Even before we met. My parents had told Lucas about my relationship with Henry. Not only did Lucas not mind, but he also stood up for me. Having a past with a scumbag isn't the woman's fault. Why should I have a prejudice against Isabella? This was also the reason why my parents felt at ease introducing Lucas to me. Lucas looked serious, but the words he said were so sharp and rude that I couldn't help but laugh. I don't know what was wrong with me before either. But I do know that he can't even compare to one of your fingers. Lucas. I'm glad we can be like this now. Henry's matter has nothing to do with us anymore. I reached out to throw Henry's resume into the trash can, but Lucas stopped me. Henry treated you like that and you're just going to let it go? Don't you want to see your shitty ex-husband make a fool of himself? Before I could refuse, Lucas called me into the interview room. Come on, let's go meet this scumbag. Lucas first interviewed several people with me, explaining the key points of the interview. Then he loudly gave instructions. Everyone else come in. We'll have a group interview next. The glass door was one way, and we could observe the interviewee's situation while they were waiting from inside. I casually glanced and saw Henry nervously gripping his sleeves, shuffling timidly behind the other interviewees. A dozen people came in together. Henry didn't dare to look around randomly. When he finally looked up, he met my eyes immediately. Isabella. What are you doing here? Henry's mouth opened slightly as he looked at me in surprise. Everyone's eyes turned towards Henry and me. At this time, Lucas coughed heavily twice and announced sternly. Interviewees, please don't try to get friendly with the interviewers casually. Your name is Henry, right? 10 points will be deducted from you first. Henry immediately shut up, not daring to ask more. A few people couldn't help but laugh. Lucas pointed out the names of those who had laughed just now one by one. Those people immediately straightened their backs, pretending to be serious, but the next second they heard Lucas change the topic. You guys are quite good. You have a great sense of humor. The company needs people like you to liven up the atmosphere. At this moment, Henry's face turned even darker, making him look like a joke. Lucas casually flipped through the resume booklet, raised his eyelids, and said unhurriedly, "There's not much to see from the resumes. Well, whoever thinks they have outstanding abilities, take 3 steps forward." The others looked at each other, hesitant to step forward. But Henry was anxious, because he had already had 10 points deducted just now and had become a laughingstock. He gritted his teeth and quickly took several steps forward. Seeing this, Lucas showed a mischievous smile. An impatient and short-sighted personality. Another 10 points deducted. There was another burst of laughter from around. Henry stamped his feet in anger. "You're playing tricks on me." Lucas picked up the resume and pointed at the remarks column. "Me playing tricks on you? Why don't you take a look at what kind of person you are? You caused your previous company to lose an order worth tens of millions due to your carelessness. If I were you, I would have kept a low profile. But you're trying to show off. Today I'll teach you one thing. Only those with real abilities can show off when they take on tasks. As for you, others will just think you're crazy. Got it?" Henry immediately turned hostile. Seeing that the situation was getting out of control, Lucas waved his hand and told everyone except Henry to leave. Everyone except Henry can come to complete the entry procedures tomorrow. The interviewees who had been frightened by this scene just now cheered and ran out. Only Henry, Lucas, and I were left in the meeting room. Instead of reflecting on his own problems, Henry thought that I had deliberately instructed Lucas to make things difficult for him. "Isabella, you're such a bitch. It hasn't been long since we divorced. And you've already hooked up with a rich guy. Does he know that you were pregnant with my child?" Lucas kicked Henry away. Henry hit the corner of the wall and lay on the ground, groaning in pain. I was worried and stopped Lucas. "Don't be impulsive." Lucas patted my shoulder reassuringly, then walked up to Henry and crushed Henry's face with the sole of his shoe. "Stop shitting with that dog mouth of yours, or I'm not sure if you can walk out of this meeting room on your own. Isabella is very nice, and I know you're a piece of work." Lucas squatted down and stared straight at Henry. "Also, I have to remind you of one thing. This company belongs to Isabella. You were supposed to marry into a wealthy family in a year. But now, TSK. Do you know what a great girl you've missed, you piece of trash?" Henry looked at me in disbelief. "Isabella, what does he mean? What wealthy family, what company?" I didn't say anything. Lucas didn't want to endure Henry's nagging either. He immediately called a security guard to shrine me out. After this day, Henry learned about my true identity and realized that everything he had in the past was given by me. Therefore, he didn't hesitate to divorce Juliet and kept coming to the company to pester me. "Isabella, I really know I was wrong. I've already divorced Juliet. I'm showing my sincerity. I promise I won't do stupid things anymore. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Isabella, I really know I was wrong. Please forgive me, okay?" Henry was persistent, but I was annoyed by his harassment. It wasn't until Lucas dragged Henry into an alley and gave him a beating in the dark that he stopped bothering me for a while because he was lying in the hospital. I hadn't had peace for long when Juliet came to me again. Isabella, you're really scheming. You sent someone to investigate me and told Henry about my abortion scandal, right? You promised to divorce, didn't you? Why are you still pestering Henry and me? As long as I got pregnant, I could have a good life with Henry. Why did you have to interfere? Juliet's face was wrinkled with crying as she kept questioning me. I actually felt a bit sorry for Juliet when I heard this. Henry's mother found out about your abortion. It has nothing to do with me. Also, Henry divorced you not because of me. He just wants my money and wants to get me back, so he kicked you aside. My eyes swept over Juliet's belly, and I sneered. And I'll tell you another secret. Henry has us the nosus per mia. Even with in vitro fertilization, there's a high probability that the mother can't get pregnant. Let alone you who has had an abortion. Instead of letting them blame you, you'd better go and scold them back. Got it? Juliet covered her mouth, forgetting to cry. Are you saying Henry has us the nosus per mia? I shrugged. I have no reason to lie to you. I turned around and left. The next day, I heard that Henry was severely beaten by Juliet in the hospital. The news that Henry had as the nosus per mia spread throughout the hospital, and he was laughed at by others in the ward. When Henry's mother rushed over, Henry was in a fit of anger and even scolded and hit her. As a result, his mother didn't want to take care of him anymore and just let Henry lie in the hospital bed, being bullied. It was the medical staff who rushed over to stop this farce. While Henry's side was in chaos, Lucas and I were chatting and laughing. Isabella, let's get engaged this month. I can't wait to marry you. Because I'm worried that you'll be snatched away by someone else. So I want to take the initiative first. Lucas lifted my hand and gently placed a devout kiss on it, which made my face turn bright red. Okay. Then let's go out and look at the hotel venue tomorrow. For my family, every banquet is an opportunity for business socializing. Therefore, the engagement venue is of particular importance. The next day, just as I was about to invite Lucas out, I received a call from Henry. Isabella, I'm not here to pester you. Can you just listen to me for a few words? Henry's voice was especially hoarse, lacking the arrogance he used to have. After all, he was my ex-husband with whom I had shared hardships. Eventually, I had a bit more patience with him. Speak. I don't have much time. I have other things to do later. There came a choking sound from Henry's side, and then he sobbed intermittently. Isabella. I know. I'm not much of a man. That child was the only flesh and blood I might have had, but, Isabella, I don't blame you for losing him. I know it's my fault. But right now, I hope we can go and pay our respects to him together. Okay? I promise that if you come with me to see him, I won't pester you anymore. I've set up a tombstone for him in the largest cemetery in John City. Can you come? As I listened, my eyes filled with tears. I was the one who caused the miscarriage by smoking. The child must have struggled and resisted in my womb. But no matter what, he couldn't overcome my cruelty. I'm sorry. I thought to myself silently, and then heard Henry repeat. Can you come? Let's give the child a name together. Isabella. It was more out of guilt than soft heart, Dennis. Regardless of what happened between Henry and me, the child was innocent. And indeed, due to my momentary impulse, a child lost the chance to come into this world. I decided to meet Henry one last time. And to see the child one last time. Before leaving, I sent a message to Lucas. Afraid of causing his misunderstanding, I didn't tell the truth. Lucas, I'm not feeling well today. Let's talk about looking at the venue tomorrow. Seeing Lucas reply okay, I went out with relief. When I arrived at the cemetery, I indeed saw Henry dressed in black, holding a bouquet of lilies. Isabella, you're here. Henry smiled slightly, with a look of relief on his face. I walked over, nodded, and took the lilies from his hand, placing them in front of the child's tombstone. "What name do you plan to give the child?" I asked. He said, "Li Ryu." I was stunned. Then Henry handed me a writing brush and ink. "Isabella, I know your handwriting is beautiful. Write the name for the child. I'll ask someone to carve it later." Recalling the past bit by bit, I took a deep breath and focused on writing on the tombstone with the brush. Just as I was absorbed in writing, I suddenly felt a gust of strong wind blowing on the back of my neck. I instinctively dodged to the side. Turning my head, I found Henry holding a knife in his hand, with a crazy look on his face, shouting furiously, "Isabella! You've ruined my life. Die!" I picked up the ink and splashed it in Henry's face, temporarily interfering with his vision. Then I turned around and started running. However, I was still a young lady from a wealthy family. I soon ran out of strength after running only a short distance. By the time I reached the entrance of the cemetery, Henry had caught up. I became even more anxious and rushed forward without looking at the road. Then I heard a rapid honking sound. Turning my head, I saw a car approaching. I was stunned and stood there motionless, thinking that I would either be hit to death by the car or stabbed to death by Henry. But the next second, I saw the front of the car turn and directly hit Henry's leg. I saw a look of shock on his face for a moment. "Isabella, are you okay? You said you were sick, so I went to your home to see you. But your uncle and aunt said you had gone out. Then I knew you were meeting Henry without telling me. Do you know how worried I was just now? I watched as Henry's knife got so close to you. It was just a little bit, Isabella. You scared me to death." Lucas laid his head on my shoulder, looking like a wronged puppy. I had never seen such a vulnerable side of Lucas. I awkwardly hugged Lucas and said stiffly, "It's okay. There won't be a next time. I promise I'll tell you where I go and what I do from now on." Lucas quickly called the police and used the video from the dash cam as evidence of Henry's attempted assault, sending Henry to prison. That month we got engaged as planned. Next month, we will get married on schedule. In the future, we will grow old together, as loving as ever.